I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of this newsletter is going to be women who sabotage dates. Got an email here from a viewer, but before we get into it, got a couple of good quotes that I'd like to share with you. First one is from Vince Lombardi. If you don't know who Vince Lombardi was, he was a famous football coach of the Green Bay Packers. Lombardi Field, you may have heard of that. Also, the Super Bowl trophy is actually named after him, the Vince Lombardi trophy. So he said, he knows a thing or two about winning, or he did, I should say. He said, the difference between a successful person is not a lack of strength, not a lack of knowledge, but rather a lack of will. And this one's from Albert Einstein. I think it's really cool. He says, logic will get you from A to B. Imagination will take you everywhere. Well, let's just go ahead and jump right into his email. He says, hey coach, it'd be fun to hear your thoughts on women who sabotage dates. I'm 50 and I do well applying the wisdom from your book. Tonight I had to pull the plug an hour into a third date that I had planned with a blonde who was a total 10. She's a psychologist who kissed me pretty passionately on the first and second dates. He says tonight's date started with a line dancing lesson and was going to go on with a visit to a Korean restaurant and then a trip back to my place. So he was obviously planning on hanging out, having fun, and hooking up to keep things simple. He says the date started with her saying that she had a bad day, and I put myself in position to listen and let her talk about it as we drove to the dance club. See, that's what's interesting about, or I say one of the things so powerful about asking questions, because in any interaction, whoever's asking questions is the one that's leading the interaction and where you want it to go. And especially when you first start dating somebody in the beginning, asking really good, high-quality questions and then just shutting your mouth and letting the other person talk, their worldview comes out. The way they look at themselves, the way they think of life, whether or not they're cynical, whether or not they're a glass is half full or a glass is half empty kind of person. It tells you a lot about them before you get totally bowled over by the fact that she's a smoking hot babe. And when I was younger, if a girl was really super hot, it's like, in a way, it's like you flip off the switch that allows you to remain objective and look at the girl objectively. Whereas if she's super hot, you're just like, oh, she's hot, that's it, it's all that matters. But as you get a little older and you have some experience, or you have experience dating super beautiful women, you start to realize, especially like when you go from a situation like me personally where I was never able to get past a second or third date with these kinds of women. So I never got to the point where I got to know them well enough or I was able to ask the right kind of questions to really determine what they were really all about. And so I never got to the point where I went out on 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 dates with them where I realized, wow, this person's kind of fucked up, or they're kind of a mess, or she's boring, or her attitude sucks, or she's pessimistic, whatever it happens to be. And then I decide I don't want to go out with her again. In my case, when I was younger, I never got to that point. And so all that did was help feed into the scarcity mindset that I had towards women. But once you get some experience under your belt and you start being able to have repeatable types of successes and you start to get good at asking questions, you're able to spot these flaky behaviors or women that just don't have their shit together, because there's a lot of very pessimistic people. The average person tends to major in minor things in life. And so he says the date started with her after she started talking about she had a bad day, and he starts listening. He says that seemed to help. Well, fast forward. After the line dancing lesson, we sat down for some more conversation, during which time she stared off into space and started to spout depressing talk and bizarre reports out of nowhere about how her life was totally fucked up and incongruent with other people because she had a child at an early age. Wow, that's really making me like you more. And see, this is interesting because this guy's doing a very good job of making her feel comfortable. And since she feels comfortable, she's just totally honest. And so she just totally reveals the way she looks at the world. And isn't it much nicer to find out, even though she's like he says, in his eyes, she's a babe, a total 10, but physically she's awesome. But when you listen to her talk about herself and her life, you just think, wow. It's kind of like the dump truck backs up and just dumps all kinds of shit and bad things and problems and crap into the yard. And their life, I'm sure you've probably either personally or you've known people in your life. And it's like every time you see them, maybe somebody you used to work with or somebody you kind of know, it's an acquaintance, you run into them in a grocery store and you think, oh, fuck, I want to get away from this person. And all they're like, oh my God, you're not going to believe what happened to me yesterday. Oh my God, this morning I got up and I went outside and all the tires in my car were flat. Or I was rushing to get to work and I get outside and then the battery's dead in my car. Oh, and they just go on and on about 10 minutes about this problem and that problem. It's just like, oh man. I remember it's so cool when you look back in your life. I remember this just reminds me of a girl that I was dating. When I fucking laid eyes on this girl, I was just like, this is the most perfect woman on the planet. I mean, this particular girl looked like, to me, Cindy Crawford. I mean, she had a mole on her cheek. Fuck, she was beautiful. Dark hair, nice body, fucking amazing smile, gorgeous lips, just fucking beautiful eyes. And I remember we were out on, I think it was our third or our fourth date. And she said this with in all seriousness. She looked me right in the eye and she goes, I just still can't understand why a guy like you would be interested in a girl like me. And I was just thinking to myself, fuck, it's like that's such a turnoff to hear that from a girl. And the thing is like it's a lot nicer to discover those things on the first or second date until you go out on several dates. Because the more you go out with them, and then you find that stuff out later, it's harder to walk away because you're enamored with their beauty and their sex appeal and their sensuality. I had another girl I wrote about in my book. We were on our second or third date, I think it was. She proceeded, or maybe it was our first date. She proceeds to tell me, she's, oh, I fuck all my relationships up. I mean, that's just not the kind of thing that you want to have happen. Or you go out on a date with a girl and you think, this girl's so hot, she's so beautiful. And then when she lets her guard down, she starts to feel comfortable. She starts telling you about all the guys, all of her boyfriends that dumped her and that she always gets dumped. I mean, it's just like, it happens. But the important thing is to remain objective and to ask good quality questions and make the woman feel comfortable. Ideally, like when you first meet her, so these things can start coming out and you can start eliciting these responses so you can get the fuck out before you even have to go out on a first date. But, you live and learn. So he says she made sure I knew that she had dyslexia also. The reason that she did poorly in line dancing, at least I guess that was the excuse she gave him. He says, I tried to handle all of these with some charming humor, even saying that it was my severe Alzheimer's disease that prevented me from doing any better at line dancing lessons than she did. I honestly couldn't bump her off her line of depressing talk. Some people, that's just the way they are. Misery loves company. And so what she really wants is to date somebody that's more like her. Like attracts like. And so in your case, I would venture to guess that because you're applying the things that I teach and you're starting to go out with the kinds of women that you always wanted, you're starting to realize that even just because a girl is smoking hot physically, she could have a whole truckload of fucking problems. She could have more problems than you and everybody you know that has problems combined. So he says, I thought I put it in a pretty strong effort towards refocusing the conversation. She also refused to dance with me on any of the regular dances. Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. So she was just determined to not be happy and to have a shitty time and to go out of her way to ruin your time. Like I said, misery loves company. There's a reason that when you hear old things like that like for generations and generations, that wisdom tends to be true. He says, at this point, I held out my hand. I said, come on, hon. I'm taking you home. He says, the weird talk continued on the way back to her place. She says, Jesus is crying, she remarked about the rainy evening, and I made no response to it. Other women have done similar things. A couple of weeks back, a woman came to my house for dinner on a second date. While I cooked and she had a glass of wine, she let me know that she had been raped as a child. I tried to restart the conversation, and she refused, saying that she wanted to make sure that I knew these things about her. It's kind of like she's seen too many of those movies and TV shows that say, on your first or second date, it's like you got to let the other person know about all the things that suck in your life, all the things that haven't gone well in your life, all the things you're bummed out about or pissed off about, or all those lovers that ditched you, or all the times you got your heart broken. And you see this crap in the movies and TV a lot. And this girl figures, hey, I got to get all my problems out in the open. And it's like, Jesus Christ, like, whoa, it's getting late here. I need to, hey, I got to run. It was nice meeting you. So he says, furthermore, she was able to see what she described as occult beings. So she sees dead people. Nice. That sounds like a lot of fun. So he says, yet another woman, a former bodybuilder calendar model, claimed on our second date that she knew how men hated her short hair. He says, I told her I liked it. Later, she tried to start an argument over dinner, predicting that my continuing to see her would rock my world. Cool, I need to how you're going to do that, I said with a charming smile. Then I calmly watched her rant over all kinds of random things until she ended the date. I couldn't resist texting her the next day and asked what had happened the night before. She claimed she had a habit of sabotaging dates just when things were going well. You think? Oh man, I mean, if you're gonna date and you're gonna go out on lots of dates, you're gonna come across this, and the idea is to get good at it, so you don't have to go out on 2 or 3 or 4 dates and spend time and spend money with these women. That's why it's so important. I stress it a lot in my book, and I learned this in sales years ago. By asking questions, it creates rapport. It causes the other person to feel comfortable to open up to you and feel like they can trust you. And so when you start talking to somebody and they just start talking about all these negative things going on in their life, it tells you a lot about their worldview and their story. And their story is basically that their life sucks. And so that's the filter. That's the lens that they see the whole entire world. And so when you're dating somebody or you're going out with somebody and they see the glass as being half empty, this is the kind of thing that you're going to get. And I was just earlier today, I was at the grocery store buying some food, and there was a couple really, there was one girl, Spanish, dark, long hair, very beautiful face, nice, sexy jeans, nice boobs. She had heels on. I mean, she's just fucking body looked tight. But in her face, I saw no fucking joy at all in her face. And it's like, that tells me, I can look right in a woman's eyes and I can know what her worldview is. I can literally empathize with her and know exactly what she's feeling. Men and women, both. I can look in other people's eyes and I can pick up on that vibe and I can feel it. And because I've been doing this for so long, I can spot right away. It's like, I want a woman who's already happy. A woman's already happy. She's going to look at me and she's going to smile. Why? Just because she's happy. Obviously, assuming, in addition to that, she likes me, but a woman who's already happy, she's going to smile, she's going to say hello to other people. But women that aren't really that happy, they're going to walk around kind of not really smiling that much. They're going to kind of have a scowl on their face. They're just not going to be as enthusiastic. And it's important to watch that, especially if you're going to go approach a woman. Look how she is with other people, how she interacts with other people. You want somebody to already be happy when you go up to meet them. You want someone to share your happiness with and your completeness with. You don't want to get into a relationship or date somebody who's looking to you to solve those things. He says, my modus operandi is to stay on center and unaffected by this talk during the date. Then I just don't call these women again. That's the best way to do it. He says, if it gets bad enough, like tonight, I end the date. Good for you for having the balls to leave when it sucks. He says, but there are these women testing me in a way that I'm not getting. He says, is there a technique I can use to try to save the date? I can't think of anything I do that causes women to go sideways like this. Well, I would say you just need to do a better job up front of asking a better quality question to screen them out. So if you'd like to get my help, the quickest way is go to my website, click the products tab at the top of your screen, and book a paid phone session.